Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Slip Safety Show. It's Christian Harris here, back with you once again, and my guest today is Craig Campbell of CC Leisure Solutions. If you've got anything to do with the leisure sector, you'll undoubtedly have come across Craig over the last few months because he's been playing a fundamentally important role in coordinating the response of the leisure sector to the challenges of the coronavirus pandemic. It's a really interesting story as to how he started doing this, but essentially he has brought together all sorts of knowledge, including some stuff that I helped him with around cleaning and hygiene, but across all aspects of what a leisure business needs to think about in terms of reopening and succeeding once they're allowed to reopen again by the government, which hopefully will be some time soon. So he tells us that story. A lot about his background as well, and some interesting discussions around, what good looks like. And I guess, as you'd expect, with me involved in the conversation, there's a bit of talk about cleanliness and cleaning as well. I hope you enjoy this one. I think you'll find it really interesting. Craig's got a very large degree of passion for what he does, which really comes through. And he's just done, as I said earlier, a fantastic job, and should be really applauded on behalf of the leisure industry for doing it. Hope you enjoy our chat, so let's get into it with Craig Campbell of CC Leisure Solutions. Craig Campbell, welcome to the Slip Safety Show.
Hello, congrats. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. All the better for seeing you, of course.
Of course.
So if anybody doesn't know you, which if they're in the leisure sector, I'm sure they will by now, but we have quite a wide audience. Do you want to give a bit of background about you and your business and what you do?
Yeah, okay. So my background about me is I started in about 28 years ago, started off with Devere. I basically did some stuff for Devere. I ended up winning like this prize that took me to Ayrsa and stuff like that with them because I'd been producing tools and things.
Right.
And what had happened is I'd moved across from McDonald's into my first proper place of work, and I quickly realised that McDonald's had it a lot more sorted than Devere did. So I brought some McDonald's tools in. I started winning awards, and I got a gym that went from 2,000 members up to 5,500 members. And they're like, "How are you doing it?" And it was like, "Do you know what? I'm training staff." I left Devere and then went to Fitness First. I was a troubleshooter turning clubs around for them. Dead interesting. And basically every organisation told me they were different, but they were all the same.
Yeah.
And it was about finding the way of you. It's a bit like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares it was. But if you notice that show, he does the same thing every week. And that's what I found, is there was a way to do it.
Yeah. He strips the menu back to being as simple as possible.
Oh, it's simple. Yeah. And then it's about people understanding what their job is properly and then training them. Imagine that. And training them before you sell. I think that's key, because our industry runs a bath with the plug out and keeps turning the taps on, but that's just the way they do it. So yeah, I left Fitness First, and I did a few other things. I was a pharmaceutical rep. Did that because my brother didn't think I'd be able to get in, and I wanted to prove to him that I could. And within 6 months I was in head office training people. So I was like, done it, ticked off, next. And then my father-in-law asked me to open some nightclubs for him.
Right.
So I did that. Everyone said, "Well, how are you going to do that? You've got nothing to do with nightclubs." And I was like, look, they've got a product. They need to have standards. We need to train the staff. So it's very similar. It's just, someone picks up a drink instead of a weight. But the reality behind it. So that was interesting. I then got my buzz back for leisure, and I came back in with Dragons Health Clubs. Then they got taken over by LA Fitness. By this time, I ended up being the national management trainer. And the interesting thing was this is where I really learned that if you want to turn around an organisation, you've got to speak to the staff who are in it and not the management. The management always tell you how good everything is and how everything's amazing. But the reality, you find that out from the staff. So that was dead interesting. And then I went to spend 6 years as being a commercial analyst. I knew I could turn around leisure centres. I understood all the operations. I just needed to understand data better. What data to look at, how to use it, and how to use it more effectively and quicker. So I did that, and then I went on my own 3 years ago. And what I do now is I go into organisations, find out what their issues are, and then help them to correct them. Really, that's the crux of what I do, mate.
Simple, yeah. I can't think of the name of the book, but I know that the author is called Marianne Page, and she was at McDonald's, and a book is all about systemizing your business. And
Is it fans, not customers?
no, it's not that. No, it's not
fans,
that.
not customers is all. That's on Metro Bank,
Yeah.
And that's also based on McDonald's.
Yeah.
And it's the thing is with McDonald's, mate, is that they got their systems and their processes absolutely boxed off.
Yeah.
That much so, they get massive consistency even though they don't own them. Now, you just consider that's a leisure where they can't even get consistency sometimes between 2 sites out of a 3-site venue.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're doing that, you've got to get your procedures right straight off. And that's what was interesting to me is when I came into leisure, it was like, whether you don't do this, whether you don't train them in that, and you don't show your standard. It's like, yeah. So that was the baffling bit, but they're amazing, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never done Mackey's, but I did sort of labouring for my dad in the summer holidays when I was younger, and then I got a bar job, and then I think I did about 3 shifts as a barman, and then I got a telemarketing job, which I preferred because it meant I was learning a bit about kind of businessy stuff, and I could go out in the evening rather than having to work. But
that's always a bonus, isn't it? It's those early choices you make, yeah.
Yeah. Although I'm not going out much right now, even though the pub's opened up on the weekend. I'll stick clear for now. So tell us, Craig, about what happened to you. Your kind of lockdown. We all got a lockdown story. So what was your lockdown story? How did things develop for you in March?
Mine was. It was funny. I was doing some work in February in York Uni. I didn't know at the time it was the first place in the UK to actually get COVID. So that felt different than anywhere I'd ever been before, because everyone was talking about COVID and giving, funny high fives and all this type of stuff, and still thinking it was funny. And once I got into York, I quickly realised that, you know what, this is going to go massive. It's going to explode. Albeit 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, we were closed down. I started trying to confirm my clients, saying, we've got training next week or the week after, whatever. And it was just, no, sorry, Craig, we can't do it. I lost everything in terms of every single booking within about 3 or 4 days. So I had a little look on LinkedIn and Twitter and all the other social media bits, and it was just annoying me, mate. It was just, it was bugging me. So when people start guessing and just talking rubbish. So I thought, do you know what? I need a break. I went and played with my kids for 3 weeks. And I sort of said this on one of the other presentations that I did. Every single evening when the kids would be in bed and my wife would get tuned into whatever program she was watching, I'd sneak my phone and start trying to have a search and see what was going on. And it was at that stage that I started realising that, do you know what? I don't think anyone's starting to put a plan together yet. So I came back and I had a chat with a few customers, and I was just blown away. I was like, oh, they haven't done anything. So I said to the 3 that I'd already spoken to, just do me a favour. I'm going to put something together. Are you free tomorrow? I'll go through it with you, see what you think. As soon as I went through it, it just highlighted just how much they didn't know and how unprepared they were. So, and some of these are really good organisations as well. It's not like they're sort of slackers. These are people who I thought would have a hold of stuff. And then it was when I realised that out of their, say, 40, 50, maybe 100 workforce, they had about 6 of them left. Yeah. And they were handing out food parcels and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I know that's a nice thing to do. And it's part of, this sort of community thing that we're doing. But I think you need to get a grip of this, because if not, we could be closing centres down if we don't do it right. So, yeah, I started... then I got a phone call off Tara and showed it to Tara. She said, I want the UK to see it. I said, okay, let's do it then. I've ended up, I don't know, I think I've ended up getting about 1,499 people. Just one more would have made it better, wouldn't it? And 1,499 people. Yeah.
I was one of them. So otherwise I would have said, well, if only I joined, but I was one of them.
So the idea behind it was, there was a lot of people who came on. Overall, it looked like we did about just over 500 organisations. Feedback, even being honest, was embarrassingly good. I don't really like showing my feedback to other people, because when it says that some of the stuff it was saying, it's just a bit cringy for me to put out there. So I've got some really good feedback, a few little constructive bits which have helped me through the updates. and we still got followers now. You know, we're on week 8 of the update, which is probably going to be the last one tomorrow.
Yeah.
So this has been a bit of a labour of love for about, I don't know, 10, 12 weeks now.
Yeah.
Just doing what I can.
Yeah. And just explain for anybody that hasn't seen it, what exactly did you do? So, you know, the whole sort of mind map and different areas and stuff.
Yeah, I started off by producing a mind map, and I only produced that. I always start everything off in a mind map because it helps me to think, and it's amazing how when you use it with other people, it's amazing how creative they become because of the way our brains work. But anyway, I did this mind map, started building it out. You go through the whole mind map, I talk through every aspect of it, and what I was trying to do is I was trying to link in the guidance, but people were waiting for guidance as if it was going to be the Holy Grail. And it's very holy, but it's not a grail. So I quickly realized that even when the guidance comes out, people don't understand it and they still don't know what it means. So I knew I had to produce a document that not only incorporated guidance, but business decisions. You know, so for example, you know, how are you going to market your product? Well, that wasn't in the guidance because that's not going to stop someone from dying from COVID. But it's extremely important if you want to sort of grow your business and you want to try and get back up to where you were prior to COVID.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you know, I think that's really been my findings, mate, is that just making sure that people knew exactly what to do with the plan. I converted it into Excel, so it was in a format they had. I then created documents and tried to pull together different organisations. So TA6 put together a marketing campaign. Gladstone came together and helped me by putting through a document saying this is all the leisure management changes you're going to need. I got risk assessments. I got obviously work with SimSpar to put the social distancing guidelines together by working through with the retail ones that we had to look at originally. Yeah. So not only did I try and create the mind map and the plan, but also all the sort of other documents in the background that they might need. I think there ended up being about 15 documents when I first put it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just designed, mate, for two things really: to give them a kickstart and to make them realise that if they don't hurry up and start doing this, that they're probably not going to get it right. And secondly, you know, if I'd done 500 organisations, I didn't want 500 marketing plans. I didn't want 500 types of risk assessment. I didn't want 500 types of social distancing spacing. Or, you know, it doesn't make sense. We're all trying to do the same thing, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to make one voice where possible.
Yeah, yeah, which totally makes sense. And I think, you know, there's been some differing views about the response of the sector, and particularly about UK Active. But I mean, the guidance that they've done, I think is pretty good from the perspective of, as you say, the stuff around stopping people from getting the disease, the virus. But it doesn't cover all these other things that you've helped with as well.
I think the other thing that I noticed is that I through this process I've really learned exactly what the governing bodies are for and what they're meant to be doing. You know, I've only been in the industry 27 years and I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where, you know, I've quickly now realised that UK Active are there to look after the organisations, and they've done that. You know, people keep saying they haven't done much, and I'm like, well, all these people have got staff on furlough, and it's been extended because UK Active helped it, and they might not be paying rent still, or they might not have been thrown out, or whatever it may be. And they've done a hell of a lot of work, and I think, you know, and SimSpar and all the other different people have. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen is that, you know, in trying to pull them all together, they all go back to the safety zones.
Yeah.
And then because of that, we end up with duplication. So you end up with, you know, a campaign on SimSpar and a campaign on UK Active and another one that Community Leisure are using. And it's like, so, you know, I quickly realised by trying to pull everything together that it needs more than me. You know, you can get something started, but everyone goes back to the little safety zones very, very quickly.
Yeah, I think you know, just like the government and like all of us, in fact, you know, none of us really knew how to deal with this specific thing because obviously we hadn't dealt with it before. I suspect that if something similar happens again, we'll all do a lot better at responding to it. But I think, you know, the further we've got into this, obviously more people have been more informed and seem to be doing better things. I know, you know, with all the governing bodies and the associations, you know, they're much more coordinated now than they were 6 weeks ago, for example. So, you know, that's got to be a good thing.
You just said something there, Christian, and it's you know, it's this, that, you know, we weren't prepared for it. And this is the bit that baffles me. Now, ever since I've been alive, we've had bacteria and viruses, and some of them were airborne. Right. So, you know, my cough now with COVID goes exactly the same as it did when I had flu.
Yeah.
Right. So everyone's saying that this is new, but it shouldn't have been. They should have had. Now, obviously, we've had conversations offline, but we you know, the places should have been clean beforehand, and they should have been up to the standard we expected, and we should have been wiping services whenever they needed it anyway.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think what this has highlighted is, you know, you go back to organisations and say, you know, show me a plan with all your touch points on it, and now show me how you're going to change it, and it's like you never had one.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
But
some of them
that's
have been
not
around
just
for 50 years and didn't have a plan, and it's like,
yeah. But that's not just for leisure. From a cleaning perspective, I know I've been banging on a bit about leisure, but all sectors haven't been that good, you know, at cleaning, and I think that's because, as I've said, there's a difference between cleanliness, which people would always say they value, and cleaning, which is how you deliver it, which has been kind of underinvested and not focused on enough.
I did a little session in one of the updates the other day, and it was sort of about, you know, Hertzberg with his maintenance and motivational factors. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why I think cleaning suffers, is it's a maintenance factor. You know, if the place is clean, you know, we know when we first open, people are going to be like hawks looking to see whether we're clean. We know that. It's going to wear off. As soon as they know it's clean, then that's fine. And if it starts dropping the standards, they'll tell us, right? But the reality is with cleaning, it's a maintenance factor. So if we do it amazing, no one should notice.
Yeah.
Right? But when we don't do it very good, then people do notice, and then that has a knock-on effect. So it's one of those things where, you know, by me doing extra cleaning and making sure everything's absolutely brilliant, it's not going to bring me any more members in. It's not going to motivate people to come in. And I think that's one of the reasons why it suffers. You know, it should always be done, and it should always be done correctly. But the reality is because it's not going to pull in memberships, that's why it dropped off. You know, I've witnessed some absolutely, you know, obviously you're a cleaning company and I'm a consultancy company that goes around trying to help organisations. I was in a place the other week, and this lady mopped a whole sports hall with 6 badminton courts on it with one mop without ringing it once.
Yeah.
And it's like, now, if I'm in there seeing that, surely there's a boss. She does this probably once or twice a month, because I don't think she does anything properly. But the reality is, I'm thinking, how can someone not sort that and fix it? And that's, you know, that's the baffling thing, is that
lots of people don't know that. Well,
they haven't been managed. You know, what's happened is you've had someone who was good on reception, good in the gym, or good at setting up trampolines or whatever it was they did. And so because they were good, we give them a new badge. We didn't turn them into managers. We just give them a badge and then expected them to be better and to give us more of their time. And, you know, we've got to have a proper training program that teaches people all this stuff that, you know, you've been teaching, or I've been teaching, or whoever, you know, these marketing plans and bits and pieces that Alliance have put together. You know, we shouldn't need to educate these managers in this now. You know, you go to other industries and you see managers, and you've got to get to a certain level before you can be there. In ours, you just basically need a pulse and be keen.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and I think also I would say, you know, that lady that was doing that cleaning process, you know, she probably doesn't have any clue that that's not correct, and I don't come across many people.
I reckon if she was mopping at home, she might ring it out.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's I tend not to find people that are doing the doing, if you know what I mean, that want to do a job badly. They do rather do a good job, you know, but they're often not shown or guided.
I do agree with that. I do agree with that. But I think what happens is, you know, I'm walking into leisure centres who've had the same cleaner for 20 years and stuff like that, and you know, I don't know about you, but I've never been able to do the same job for a certain period of time, because I get bored, and when I get bored, I get lazy. You know, I had this, honest to God, I went into this other one the other week, and they had this 200-metre sort of path that you walk in, and the way she wiped the banister was by walking down 250 metres by resting a hand on it and rubbing it, and then she walked up the other side, and that was it, done. And I remember saying to her, Christian, honestly, I said, what about all the marks below? And she went, oh no, I've got bad knees.
But again, to be fair, that I've seen that sort of thing in a Sainsbury's, you know, where they have the travelators, the big long travelators, and you see exactly this, and that's with a professional cleaning company, and so it's not...
it is. It's a hard thing. I've always found with cleaning that it's something that you've got to do a hell of a lot of training in if you want it good. And the other thing about cleaning is that you need to train your management and your senior management to involve it into the business. Because I do a thing called the Fussy Customer Walk, or the Queen's Visit, as part of one of my service training. And it's about trying to teach them to take a step back and open their eyes, because, you know, they do become blind to it. And on every single time we do it, within a 15-minute walk, we find anywhere between 50 to 200 things. And it's only because we haven't trained the management to do what we're doing. And as I say, and with cleaning, it's also one of those jobs that's deemed low in class. Is that fair to say, Christian?
Yeah, no, it's
there's
what's the
not many
best way of
people in
saying it?
schools who go, I can't wait to be a cleaner when I'm older.
You're not growing up desiring to be a cleaner, no.
So they get left, and we don't train them, mate, and then we get bad results, and then we blame the cleaner.
Yeah, which isn't fair, I don't think. But there we go. So we're talking on the 6th of July. Do you think people are ready?
No. I've done a poll on. Obviously, I've been part of setting up the Welsh hub, the leisure hub, which is basically a place to go for everything Welsh, and I've also done the same for Scotland. We've done 2 polls asking, how are you ready yet? I also did this in one of my updates. So everyone on LinkedIn and Twitter's ready, but that's normally the owners of the business who are going, we've done everything, we're going to be amazing, and it's brilliant. But once you actually ask the people who are meant to be putting the plan in, because bear in mind, most of them are still furloughed, so how they trained everyone and done everything's beyond me, but brilliant if you have. So no, the Welsh survey says something along the lines of, I think it's about 65% think they're under 50% ready. And the one in Scotland has got 96% under 60% ready.
Right.
And the one I did one last week, and we had I think it was about 70% who weren't ready, and that was out of about 50 odd different organisations on that one as well. So looking at around about 100 odd organisations in those 3 groups that I've had a look at, you're looking at maybe 20% ready. And I'd love to sit down and speak with them.
Yeah, I mean, certain companies. Yeah, so I mean, somebody like Pure Gym, they've been quite vocal, haven't they, to say that they're all ready, and they probably are, to be fair. But that's a different type of organisation, and it's a different type of facility as well than a big leisure centre. So the different things they've got to think about.
Yeah, well, they're an organisation that don't really have many staff, so how they're going to wipe everything in between is beyond me, because all the studies tell us that the customers aren't going to do it. So yeah, if they're ready, good on them.
Yeah, I was chatting.
I'd love to see how they're going to overcome. If in their rules is the members are going to wipe stuff, well, the plan's probably not going to work.
Yeah, it's interesting that, because I've been talking about that piece a lot in the stuff I've been doing, and sort of saying that we need to, if we're ever going to get the members to engage, it's now, because everybody does know and everybody says how important this is.
27 years we've been asking them to put the weights back, and they still can't. And now we're asking them to clean them before they put them back, and we think they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Mental.
Yeah. And that's going to, if people aren't going to do that, that's going to open up a whole can of worms, because, just commercially, how many, if you've got, I don't know, 100 pieces of equipment in your gym, and you've got a decent percentage of those being used, I mean, you're going to need a huge amount of resource, labour, to try and stay on top of that.
Yeah, and they haven't got it, and they haven't been trained yet because they're still on furlough, and that's what I mean. That's the only bit that worries me. I think what they're really saying is that if you can give us a date, we'll do as much as we can to get there.
Yeah. But
no one knows whether they're ready until they open.
Yeah, that's true, because actually, going back to cleaning, you might be the operator of a facility or a group of facilities, and you might think that your facilities are quite clean, but actually your customers could walk in and think that they're not, and then you're not ready when you thought you were, I suppose.
Yeah, I do a lot of this personality profiling just to show there's 4 different personality types. So you've got dominant, influential, steady, and compliance. And obviously compliance are very, very good at spotting things and checking and all that type of stuff. Now, the funny thing is that, my wife can give me a little task at the weekend saying, can you, clean the bathroom, or can you clean the bedroom? And I think I've done it. I'm now out with the kids. I'm enjoying myself. I'll come in and I'll quickly find out I haven't done it to the standard that was needed.
That sounds. I probably shouldn't say this, but that sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example, isn't it? Is I thought we were ready. I thought it was fine, love. And the reality is that because we haven't got any industry standards, it's fine for Pure Gym to say they are ready, because no one's going to measure them anyway. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, because there's no, this is what you have to do as an organisation. What they're trying to do in Wales at the minute is really, really good. We're trying to build that. We're trying to build one plan for the whole of Wales, so they can all, this is the standard we're going to have you to. Whereas what I found in the UK is you can basically do whatever you want, as long as you do the least possible, which is guidelines.
So is that going to be a bit more prescriptive then than what UK Active have done, for example?
Well, UK Active haven't put a plan together. They put a framework together, which leaves a load of grey areas for you to do what you like.
Yeah.
You know, so it says that, you know, you don't have to use PPE, but if you want to, you can. Well, go and look at every post on the government now. They're telling everyone to wear a mask. Why don't they put a mask into the guidance? Why don't they want the staff to be safe? I'm not having to go at UK Active because they're obviously following PHE England.
Yeah.
But we know why did he work? I said this on my talks, but we know masks work in hospitals, and we talk about whether they're a different grade when you come out. So when you come out, let's say that they use special ones. But when you come out, we know they work on buses. These are the cheap ones that we had the government showing us making them out of a sock the other week. So as long as it's got 3-ply, we know that it's going to do, you know, it's going to do a certain job. So it works in Scotland. It works on the buses. It works in any tight space, but your staff don't have to wear them. What? In fact, I've just put a post on LinkedIn and Twitter before, just saying exactly the same thing, saying it just baffles me how we know something works, but we won't make it a standard.
And it's probably going to change. You know, I think right now, you know, that isn't the case, but in 2 weeks' time,
if you have a look at it, it is. Because,
sorry, I mean, it isn't the case that they're saying you've got to wear them, whereas in 2 weeks' time they might change their mind and say, oh, actually, yeah, you have to wear masks.
Well, but the thing is they are, though, because if you look at what they're actually saying, do you know the 1 metre plus? The plus is plus another
plus
action.
mitigations,
yeah. So the plus is basically a mask. Have a look at 80% of the tweets that they put out. It's only got a mask on there as the plus.
Yeah.
And then you've got the other bit saying, like, don't interact with someone for too long, but they probably realise that that's a bit crap. Oh, rubbish, sorry. So they've
all right.
so they've moved away from it, and it's like, oh, come on. But it is what it is, mate.
Yeah, just got to try and do the best we can with.
I think the organisations have to create their standards, because anyone who opens up just doing the guidelines, I think, is really going to struggle in terms of customer confidence.
Well, it's an interesting point, because quite a few of the conversations I've had on here with people in the sort of safety and risk world have been about the dangers of the word compliance. So, you know, compliance is basically like, yeah, we're meeting the regulations in this scenario. It's the bare minimum, but actually just being compliant isn't enough, particularly nowadays. You know, you've got to be striving to be above that and be better and be the best that you can be, I think.
Yeah, and as you say, it's you know, we're compliant with doing the least possible for you. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, not
it's not a business message, is it? You know, this whole thing is, you know, when COVID first kicked off, it was a health message, and now we know that all the decisions that are being made are not based on health.
No.
Look at the spikes that are happening everywhere. Leicester, Cheshire, they're kicking in all over the place. So rates which are ridiculous. You know, we're trying to follow what other countries have done, but they're closing back down. But we're not thinking, oh, well, that didn't work for them, but we're still going to do it.
Yeah, I think it was all. I mean, my view is that it's all been about just making sure the NHS doesn't get overwhelmed, and they've managed to achieve that in the past, and therefore they just want to loosen things up. And I think as long as, it sounds a bit callous to say it, but I think they're kind of going to accept that people are going to get it and people are going to die. But as long as the NHS doesn't get overwhelmed, I think they'll ride with it, because they kind of feel like,
yeah. Well, if you look in terms of size of country, we're by far the best at killing people with COVID.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, we can see that decisions weren't based on health, and they're still not. But yeah, I think, yeah, it's just. I think the frustrating part is, obviously, we've got to follow whatever we're told, whether it's right or wrong. You know, how many people have talked about air conditioning? Well, what's the stance on it then? You know, I've been looking into I've read through that bleeding SIPSI manual. I've read through all sorts. Still don't know what you've got to do.
No.
But they said 3 weeks ago that it's because of that, and now it's not because of that. And you're like, well, what's the science that changed between those two dates? Is it because we did a visit?
Yeah, the goalposts are changing a lot, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, again, you know, we use that survey or the study that was done in America about saying that the COVID doesn't spread. We seem to have ignored the one they did in Spain, the two they did in Korea, and the one they did in the Netherlands that all prove that it definitely does.
Yeah.
So again, it's like, do you know what? We'll cherry pick that one because that helps our case today, and we'll just follow this route. We'll get people back no matter what it does for them or to them.
Well, yeah, it's a bit like that one. That one came out of Norway, wasn't it? Saying gyms are safe when they had 3,000 people without COVID went into the facilities and nobody else got COVID. It's like, well, no, of course.
But this is the thing is, we're not doing track and trace. We're not doing testing. We don't have to do testing when you come in like they do in those countries. But so we want to borrow the survey often, but not follow all the procedures that they put in place.
Yeah.
That's measuring apples with pears.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's absolutely mental, and the amount of people who are doing that, and it's like, oh, come on. If we were doing all the same things as them, we can expect the same results. We're not going to get the same results by the way we're doing it. But, can you feel me frustrating starting to build?
I can see the steam rising off your head.
Yeah, there's nothing else to hide the steam neither, so unfortunately.
Well, that's one advantage of that hairstyle. Lockdown has been quite easy for you.
Oh, it's been. Do you know what? I'm made up. I'm bald. It's the best thing that ever happened to me because I never liked hair when I had it. My wife said that to me the other day. She was like, "It's much better for you," and I was like, "Honestly, love, you shave your head and realise that, and tell me whether it's better."
Well, I was chatting to. I've had this is the third conversation I've had about hairstyles today. I was chatting to a guy from Rospa. And he's like you. He does the picking, so he said it was nice and easy for me. And then I was chatting to Phil from SimSpa, and he was kind of saying about his hair. He was wearing a cap because his hair is getting a bit long. And I said, well, to be honest, I personally wouldn't feel comfortable going to a hairdresser's because I think there's a lot of this furore about gyms. But to me, going to a hairdresser must be among the riskiest things you could possibly do because you've got one person in very close contact with 30, 40, 50, 60, however many people throughout the day. That doesn't sound very safe to me.
I think the only good thing bald heads for is telling people when it's starting to rain. I feel the drops a hell of a lot quicker than everyone else.
Oh, well, there you go. Every cloud has a silver lining. Yeah. So what's going to be happening for you then over the next few months? I mean, I suppose it's slightly up in the air in terms of how things generally go.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm doing the updates for the UK will be finishing as of this Thursday, just because the information's coming through too slow now and people should be planning. I'm going to open my time up again to start seeing if people want me to help them. So probably as of the end of this month, then I'll be charging for anything I do. As you're aware of, I haven't charged for anything I've done since February.
No.
So I just can't go on any longer. Because if not, there won't be a CC Leisure Solutions at the end of it. So yeah, I'm gonna open up. I've got loads of people and organisations who said they wanted to do stuff. Whether they still do, I'm not sure. I've got quite a few things in the fire. So obviously, I'm doing this hub with Wales. I'm doing some stuff with Scotland. I've had chats with Community Leisure and a few different people. So yeah, I really don't know, mate. I really don't know where the future lies, and until the leisure centres open. If we're being honest, they didn't train the staff before COVID. Now, after COVID with less money, I think I know what the answer's going to be.
I think you'll find, this is my personal view, I think what you're going to find is that there'll be an even greater disparity between the kind of top performers and the also-rans. And so actually you might find that, there's a good chunk of people that will be doing more and more and investing and actually they're the ones that are going to do well. And so it's kind of navigating your way to knowing who those are.
See, I don't know whether you find this as well, Christian, but I do, is that, I work with, I think I've got about 125 councils, trusts, unis or private centres on my books who I've done work with since I've been open for the last 3 years. And it amazes me that all the really good organisations are the ones who use me. So you'd think that they were that good that they'd know what they were doing. But they're that good, they know they need help. And then I go to all these other organisations who think they're far better than what they actually are, and they think they don't need any help, and that's why they end up staying bottom of the pile. So I don't know whether you get that with cleaning, that the good ones want a good standard, and the other ones go, oh, we'll do it ourselves, we're brilliant, and they don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think actually that self-awareness is probably the best skill you can have. I mean, for example, just talking about myself, I know the things I'm good at, the things I'm not so good at, the things I need help with. And actually, it's about having the confidence to know that and act upon it. And that's what hopefully pushes you on and improves you. And it's the same if you're running a business, isn't it? It's about knowing where you're weak and
do you know what? Totally. And this is one of the reasons, mate, why I've been using disc profiling for probably 20 odd years. It's for that exact reason, and so people can understand themselves and know what the weaknesses are, and know the bits that they should be working on to improve themselves, and to know the weaknesses of the group or the people. You know, if you've got someone who's like a hothead, don't ever go to them for being hot-headed. Do you know what I mean? We use them strengths for other areas of the business, but you can't. You know, it's like when someone's really good at detail and you have a go at them because they sent you a long email.
Yeah.
It's like the reality is we've got to realise that all people have different strengths and we need to be using them and need to be working on our own. But yeah, DISC has allowed me to do that for years now.
Yeah.
But I just love it when I see other people sort of getting those realizations or the penny dropper moments where it's like, okay.
What sort of I don't know that much about DISC, but I've done various other sort of personality things. I mean, what do you think makes a good leisure club general manager? What sort of profile is that? Would you say?
There's no such thing as the profile as a profile to. There's no. I see a lot of people doing this. I see a lot of people saying, like, these are the types of customers that are going to be walking in. And you're like, okay, I can tell you that some customers will have fears, but I don't know the types of customers. And I wouldn't like to pigeonhole the people who are going to come in and that type of thing. So in terms of, what you probably do find is that the higher up you go in an organization. Now, I use these, I'll use these cards very, very quickly. Just because it helps to explain how DISC sort of fits in. But you have dominant, which is obviously the green, then you have red, which is very influential, then you have steady, and then you have compliance. So you've got the 4 different colours. Now, as you get higher up in an organisation, this D trait becomes a hell of a lot more useful because it's about making decisions quicker. So you probably tend to find these 2 extremes, the steadies and the dominants. There's a lot more dominance at the top end of the tree.
Right.
Because it's all about, people striving, pushing, challenging. So you've got to be comfortable in that environment, whereas some of the steadies might not be, so they just don't put themselves into that.
Yeah.
So as I, if I have a group of senior chief execs, there'll be a bit more D and probably a bit more C within there. But there's no, it doesn't mean if you're an I, you can't be an amazing, instructor. It doesn't mean that at all. So yeah, it just means that the whole idea of DISC, it's about once you realize about yourself and what you can do to improve yourself, that's key. And let's just say, for instance, imagine I'm a D and I butt in all the time in work, and someone tells me something and I jump in and start telling them how to do it. Well, if I can learn that that's something that I do, and instead of doing that 10 times, I only do it 8 or maybe 7, and maybe I could master it and get it to 6. Well, this massive problem just shrinks. And it becomes less noticeable, which means that it keeps the relationship and the harmony even better. So, yeah, I don't think there's a specific type. I think the key is that whatever type you are, find out what you are and make sure you're doing something that you enjoy. Because when you enjoy it, it's much more fun.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think one thing I'll say about you, Craig, is your interest and your passion for this has just been phenomenal over this period, and it's very infectious. So well done.
Do you know what, mate? I've always been passionate about it. I've always cared. I've just never really known how to make people listen. And I think the only thing that the COVID's really done for me is, I was already doing some, presenting at like the Flame Awards and different things for UK Active, and I've got a relatively okay name, I think, in the industry. But what this has done, it's opened the door for some of the top chief execs in some of the big organisations for me to have conversations with them. And every conversation I'm having seems good. So yeah, I think it's opened the door a little bit, and it's allowed me to be listened. But hopefully, sometimes, mate, I've got to try and contain the passion as well, because
I've struggled with that as well, as you know. We've had conversations about that before.
When I've got people telling me how good they are, and that's one. Well, our organisation does this, and we're amazing at this, and I'm like, okay, do you want me to believe it just because you've said it? If you can prove it, then I'm in.
I always subscribe to kind of undersell and over deliver if you can.
Totally.
Whenever I talk to anybody about what I do or what I'm good at or what the business is good at, I always try and sort of underplay it, and then hopefully if somebody says, well, yeah, give us, let's give you a go. There's nothing better than receiving feedback, because actually people are pleasantly surprised you've done more or better or quicker or whatever than you said you would do.
I think managing expectation is extremely key, and I do this thing. So my courses, for instance, They get told on the course it's from 9 till 4:30. Well, it's actually so 9 is so we can start for past.
Yeah.
Because if we say past, we'll never start on time. So we say 9, we can start at past. So I haven't lost any time. They haven't lost any time. There's no need to rush. And I'll always finish before 4:30. My aim is to finish for around about 4 o'clock. Now, if I go over by 10 minutes, no one notices because they're still leaving 20 minutes early. So it's all about building in that exactly like you're saying. It's about understanding exactly what is expected, and then how can you make sure you do better than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Great, Craig. Well, listen, thanks very much for your time, and also on behalf of everybody in the industry, thanks for all the effort you put in over this period. I know, I know from everybody that I've been speaking with, it's been really appreciated. How should people follow you, get in touch with you, etc., if they're interested to have a chat with you?
Yeah, if they go onto my website, there's a link where they can click to book an appointment. It goes straight to my diary, and they can book a time that suits us both. They can message me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. They can send me an email to craig@ccleisuresolutions.com. And yeah, it's however they want to contact me. I don't think out of all the people, I've got back to every single person that's sort of sent in a feedback or query or questions throughout this whole process. So I'm willing to, I just want to help people, mate. And if a little few words that I do can help someone, then perfect, I'll do it. So yeah, if anyone wants to talk about anything at all, it doesn't have to be COVID. It can be about general business and the proper stuff, the proper leisure stuff that we should be doing. If you want to talk about anything, then yeah, I'm happy to have a chat, mate. No problem.
Perfect. All right, Craig. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for your time, kind sir, and I will speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, mate.